Hey everybody, we are back with another Acceptable Casualties battle report. Today we're going to be starting our campaign in Battlegroup. It's going to be a loosely historically based campaign off Operation Blockbuster for the British crossing over the Rhine going into Germany. So we're going to go over the list first. It's going to be the 52nd Lowland Division taking on a Volksgrenadier company, working their way into the city of Goch. And then, I'll go over a little bit more about it once we go over deployment. So I'll be back in a flash. So here we have the 52nd Lowland Division. It's going to be a 500-point army. If you're curious as how we're playing the campaign, just check a couple days earlier. There's a little campaign informative video over there kind of explaining the armies and how the thing's going to play out. So this is the 552nd Lowland list right here. So down here I have the forward HQ. I have an infantry platoon with 3 teams. There's the command team with the Piat upgrade, a 2-inch mortar. I got a combat medic, a 6-pounder, a Vickers machine gun, and then a medium mortar team. I also took, for one of my specialist units, I got the Bofors self-propelled anti-air. For a recce, I got a Daimler, and then I have a recce platoon command and a Dingo. That's my forward HQ. And then for tank support, I have 3 Churchills. Nothing special for them. Overall, it's 31 battle rating points. I'll be back in a second to go over Vin's Volksgrenadiers. So here is Vin's 500-point Volksgrenadier. I say 500-point. They're actually 450-point lists. We had the Defender getting an extra 50 points, but in this mission it's a meeting engagement, so actually both lists are only 450. Up here is Vin's forward HQ. He's coming with a half-track. Down here is Vin's Volksgrenadier infantry platoon. There's 3 teams there that are regular 5-man teams, then 3 MG-34 teams behind them. This is the command base right here, and then Vin has a combat medic attached to that. Over here is an extra squad of Volksgrenadiers, so you have 1 5-man team and then a 3-man MG team behind him. Then Vin, for his recce, has a foot patrol team with the MG-34 upgraded to an MG-42. He has, for his artillery, he brought a 105. And then over here he has 3 Stugs. One of them is upgraded to Panzer Ace. Vin, is it 2 105s or just 1?
I believe it's just 1.
Oh yeah, 1 howitzer. Okay, yeah, so it's just 1 howitzer. So this is Vin's list for 450. We'll be back in a second to go over deployment. The mission is going to be flanking attack. Alright, so we are back for deployment right now. I'm going to go over some things first, just like some little campaign rules that me and Vin have, and then we'll go right into the deployment. So there's 5 objectives that got put on the table. This is actually rolled up for the mission. The way we have it playing right now is if you take an objective and hold it for the end of the game, whether you win or lose, you get 25 campaign points. If you win the game, you get 100 campaign points. Then there's other little things that we can do off camera that we can get extra campaign points. These are strictly used for us to buy back units that are killed in battle if they're wiped out completely. So that's just like a little idea of what's going on in here. Like I said, if you want to know more about it, just go back and watch the little campaign introduction video that was posted up like 2 days ago. For our deployment for this mission, I ended up winning the roll-offs for the deployment and the recce. So I ended up choosing this table edge down here. Vin ended up getting this table edge here. And then for my recce units, I had 2 recce units that were this flanking force, and then Vin's scout units came in off that corner over there. So that's what we're looking at right now. For deployment, I ended up getting my Churchill commander. He's placed right there. The infantry platoon is up here, and then I have my 3-inch mortar is placed right in there. For my recce units down here, I have my my scout commander, forward scout, I forgot what it's called, but the scout command car, and then I have a Daimler right there that pulled off on this flank. Vin down here has his senior officer in a half-track. He has his 105 down in this corner, and then up here for Vin's deployment, he was able to get his foot patrol in for the Volksgrenadier up along this fence line. The way we're playing it right now, just like kind of house ruling it, all these objectives, none of them are owned right now, so it's a meeting engagement. So if you move up and take it, you're going to get the 25 command points if you hold it for the end of the game. But if your opponent comes and take it, then you're going to start pulling shits. I ended up winning the recce battle, so Vin does have to pull its shit, and then we'll be back in a second to go over top of turn 1 for the 52nd Lowland. So we are back for top of turn one for the 52nd Lowland Division. In this turn, I ended up getting 6 orders altogether, which was exactly what I had on the table. We don't start getting our reserves in until turn 2 from our table corners. So what we're looking at right now is, for me, I ended up just doing a lot of moves right here. Churchill's only move 5 inches per move, so I did the double move with him to get him up to 10. It's going to get a better foothold on the middle of the table over here. The mortars stayed put back over there as support. I ended up pushing my infantry 10 over here into the field. These hedgerows you can't see through. You can see over them if you're in a tank or in a half track, but foot soldiers aren't able to see or move through them as well as vehicles. Back over here, that Daimler 1, I ended up pushing him around over there with 2 moves and giving him a position to look a little bit right down here and watch this roadway into this house over here. And then that recce platoon commander, I ended up pushing him up to the top of the hill to kind of give him a better view of the whole table. That's pretty much all I ended up doing here with my moves. We'll be back in a second to go over bottom of turn 1 for the Volksgrenadiers. So we are back for bottom of turn 1 for Volksgrenadiers. A lot of positioning this turn since no reserves are really coming in. So Vin took his forward HQ in the half track and pushed him up behind this brick building right here to give him a better position. Probably going to dismount and end up moving into there for the next turn. Over here, Vin took his Volksgrenadier foot patrol, ended up moving up over here to give him a better position along these crossroads right there. The only other movement Vin could have done would have been with this artillery unit here, but you know, they can't really move and they can't shoot because there's no one to observe for him this turn. So a pretty quiet turn for turn 1 right now. Vin controls 2 objectives. I pretty much control 2 objectives with the middle objectives still kind of open right now. So we'll be back in a second for top of turn 2 for the 52nd, and then we're also going to get D6 reserves in on the that back table edge over there. So we'll be back in a flash. So we are back for top of turn 2 for the 52nd Lowland, and a pretty decent turn for us. We ended up getting on 4 reserves, and we ended up getting 9 orders in total. So I ended up bringing on a Churchill, one of the infantry squads, the 6-pounder over there, and then the Bofors. So I had enough orders to go around for everybody, so I ended up moving that 6-pounder right to there. The Bofors I pushed up here to kind of give them a little bit of support fire coming down that range right there. The Churchill, I ended up moving up. I tried to observe down here and shoot machine gun fire, but I failed to do that. I just moved up with that rifle company there, moved up with this rifle company here, and then the Daimler I just positioned right there. I tried to spot and drop a bombardment over here from the recce team I have on top of the hill, but I failed a comms test, which left me with my Churchill commander down there. He was the only one left on the table, so I was able to range in and spot down here. And I ended up dropping mortar bombardment. I ended up rolling a 1d6 for the scatter. I ended up hitting, yeah, I did pretty good on that. With the 2 dice, I ended up rolling another 6 on top of it. So it landed there. I ended up doing 3 wounds on Vin with a direct hit. Vin failed all 3 saves, but he ended up rolling a 6 for his morale, so they're not pinned. And then Vin passed his Call of Duty test, beyond the Call of Duty test, ended up moving the mortars over a little bit more just to kind of get him out of the range of direct fire. So that's what happened here for the top of turn 2. We'll be back in a second for the bottom of turn 2 for the Volksgrenadiers, see what reserves come in for Vin. So we are back for the bottom of turn 2. Pretty good turn here for Vin. He ended up striking first blood. So Vin got, what, 4 reserves in, right?
Yeah.
4 reserves. How many orders did you get? Like 8? 7 or 8? 7 or 8. So Vin ended up bringing in one of his Stugs off the road down here, pushed him up, and ended up firing and taking out my recce platoon commander over there on top of the hill. Just blew him up. Vin got, what, back-to-back 6s to observe me and then hit me. So it was pretty huge with that AP shell. Down here with the other Stug, Vin ended up moving up, trying to shoot at that Daimler over there. He ended up missing on that. This other foot patrol unit and the machine gun unit also came in off the table edge and positioned himself over there. Vin then used his forward HQ to spot here in front of the hill after he was blown up, hoping to get a drift to maybe do something with that Daimler, but Vin ended up getting with the scatter. He got danger close to this Stug over here, so ended up calling it off. Then Vin moved up his MG42 over here along the fence, and he ended up putting this rifle team in ambush. So that's everything that happened here for the bottom of turn 2 for the Volksgrenadier. Be back in a second for top of turn 3 for the 52nd Lowland Division. So we are back for the top of turn 3 for the 52nd Lowland. This turn we ended up getting 1 reserve in, and that was I ended up trying to bring on my forward HQ back over there. He's not on the table yet. I only got like 7 orders with the roll for my command dice. So what I ended up doing this turn was with the Daimler, I ended up trying to pin the Stug down here. I ended up failing that attempt, and then I ended up pushing back with my move over there to kind of get him out of line of sight. With the Bofors down there, I also attempted to pin the Stug over here with 2 shots. I ended up failing on that. I ended up putting these guys up along the fence line over here with a move order. I put my Churchill right there in ambush. I pushed up my 6-pounder there along the woods to maybe give a little support mid to late game. Then back over here, I moved up the Churchill. I tried to pin these guys down here. I ended up failing doing that as well. And then I took this rifle squad right here and I pushed them up along the fences right here. It's pretty much all that happened for my turn. It was a lot of movement and a whole lot of failing as far as shooting and trying to pin units go. So we'll be back in a second for bottom of turn 3 for the Volksgrenadier. We're back for bottom of turn 3 for this turn. Vin ended up getting 2 reserves in, and he ended up getting 11 orders. So for this turn, Vin had 2 of these rifle teams that came in from reserve. He pushed them up into the woods over here. Down over here, Vin's Stug tried to do a comms test down there for the 105, but ended up failing the comms check, so nothing worked out with that. Vin pushed up his Stug here along the hedgerows. I ended up popping my ambush with the Churchill, shooting just over the top of the bushes right here. I ended up only observing once, but then I failed to hit. Vin pushed his MG42 team up to the side of the fence over here. With this rifle team over here, Vin opted to get rid of the ambush. He moved him here. With 1 shot, Vin was able to actually pin the unit that was back over there. Vin ended up disembarking from here and moved into the building from the half track, and then up over here Vin moved into the woods and tried to suppress the rifle team over here, but I ended up passing my saves, so nothing ended up happening there. And that's all that happened here for the bottom of turn 3. We'll be back in a second for top of turn 4 for the Lowland Division. So we are back for top of turn 4 for the 52nd. Pretty decent turn for us right here. So I had that land mattress in my list, and where I marked it was right here on the crossroads. So the Stug, the MG42 team, and my guys were all within range of where it dropped. I had 4 dice for the land mattress barrage. 3 of them hit. I got 1 direct hit on the MG42 team, and then 2 pins, which were for the Stug and the MG42. So my guys ended up dodging a bullet right there. I ended up killing the MG42 outright, and I ended up failing to pin the Stug over there with the land mattress. But it was a pretty good point investment for that. Then down here, with the Daimler, I took 2 shots into the side of the Stug. I ended up not doing anything. With the Churchill, I took 1 shot and then elected to move. I failed to, I think, even observe on that one. I ended up moving the Vickers up over there from reserve to get them close to the fence. The Bofors down here, I ended up firing down. I was able to pin this Stug down here with the 6, which was pretty huge. So he's pinned over there. Down over here, I attempted to pin these guys using the 6-pounder that's placed over there. I took 2 attempts. I needed a 5. I ended up rolling 2 4s, so that ended up not working out too well. For my other reserve, I only had 2 reserve units. Like I said, one was the Vickers, one was the Churchill. I ended up just driving him up 10. I really didn't have any shots. The Churchill that was placed over here, I ended up moving him up a little bit closer, and then I tried firing some machine guns down into here, but I ended up failing to observe there as well. I think that's all that really happened. I elected not to do anything with these guys and just kind of hold their ground there. Actually, I had an order to give them. They'll have an ambush order. But that's all that ended up happening here for the top of turn 4. We'll be back in a second for bottom of turn 4 for the Volksgrenadier. We're back for bottom of turn 4 for the Volksgrenadier. In this turn, Vin, would you get 2 reserves again?
Yeah,
right. Yeah, it was 2 reserves. They ended up moving on right here. Vin had enough orders to get, I think, 1 for everybody. So that ended up happening right here. So what ended up going down, Vin moved up a bunch of rifle teams here, and then with his Stug over there, they opened up. They were able to kill 5 guys from that rifle team and pin the unit over there. Down here, Vin's one guy from his foot patrol was able to fire down. They killed 1 guy from a rifle team, and then they got moving back behind the hedges over there. Vin tried to observe with his forward commander up here down in this spot, but failed the comms test. Whatever happened. What else happened down here? Then you had the Stug who ended up moving up, firing one shot at the Churchill.
Yeah.
And ended up failing to. You tried to pin him, didn't you?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and then he ended up failing in the pin. That's pretty much all that happened here for the bottom of turn 4 for the Volksgrenadier. Back in a second for top of turn 5 for the 52nd Lowland Division. So we are back for top of turn 5 for the 52nd Lowland. In this turn, I ended up getting 2 reserves. Once again, they're just slowly trickling in. I ended up bringing in my platoon commander for the infantry platoon and another one of the rifle units. I ended up rolling 9 orders to get these guys in. So what I ended up doing was I took the infantry unit, I did the tactical command thing from the senior officer. I pulled the chit, unpinned these guys who were here. And then with their order, I ended up pushing them up along the hedgerow right here. With this Churchill down here, I fired a couple rounds down here. I wasn't able to hit with him, but with the second Churchill right there, I was actually able to pin the Stug down here, which was pretty huge. The Daimler then attempted 2 shots into the side over here, ended up observing on both, but missing on both shots, so he's running a little bit lower on ammunition. With the Churchill right there, I tried to range in down here. I failed the comms test. With the Bofors over there, I used the HE rounds again to try to pin down here. I ended up failing to do that as well. With the 6-pounder right there, fired a couple shots down here and ended up failing to pin as well with them. So it was a lot of misses for the most part. Like I said, the big thing was just kind of getting this Stug pinned and then getting some guys in position to make a move on this objective. So we'll be back in a second for bottom of turn 5 for the Volksgrenadier. Be back in a flash. So we are back for bottom of turn 5 for the Volksgrenadier. In this turn, Vin ended up rolling a 6 for your reserve. So he had pretty much everybody come on, but then Vin rolled a 6 for his orders. He ended up using his senior officer's opportunity to re-roll 1 die for one of his order dice. He ended up rolling a 1 on the re-roll of a 1. So this should not be shocking to anybody who's watching any of our battle reports. So Vin this turn pretty much just opened up. Tried to do a bunch of pinning with like this tank right here. These guys, tank right here, tried to shoot down there. They just failed to observe and range in. The one thing Vin did have going for him though was his rifle teams and MG teams. They were able to pluck out and kill this one rifle squad that was over here. So I had to pull a chit for that. Then Vin used his commander up in the building to try to drop the bombardment with the 1 gun down here. Ended up scattering out. Vin ended up only being able to get 1 die to hit the Churchill over there and failed to get the pin off. I think he rolled like a 2, so nothing happened on that one. So that's really all that happened here for the bottom of turn 5. Vin did pull an extra chit to unpin the Stug down there. So that's what we're looking at right now. So we'll be back in a second for top of turn 6 for the Lowland. I got 2 units left coming out of reserve, so hopefully I can, well, if I roll another 2, then I'll get everybody back. It's been pretty consistent, so we'll be back in a flash. We are back for the top of turn 6 for the 52nd Lowland. This turn, I was able to get in the last of my reserves, and I had 12 orders, so I was able to activate pretty much everybody except for 2 people. So the only person left off the table right now is the medic on the back end. So we ended up doing here, I ended up firing 1 shot with the Daimler to try to pin that Stug again, failed to do it, so I ended up just pushing him up to stay within 10 inches of that objective and still kind of contest it. Over here with the Churchill, I ended up dropping bombardment down there. It's scattered over here. I ended up needing a 4, I think, to pin one of the units. I ended up failing to do that, so that didn't go too well. The Bofors, once again, I tried to pin this Stug down there. Didn't happen over there. The Churchill over there, fired 2 shots down here. I got 2 hits, but I needed 9s, 8s or 9s to take him out of the game, and I ended up rolling like 2 5s on back-to-back rolls. Vin passed both of his morale checks, so no dice there on that. Then it was pretty much just a lot of positioning. I wasn't able to pin or do anything to anybody except for this down here. The infantry platoon that was over there, I was able to wrap them around and then be within 5 inches for that close assault. So I ended up getting a close assault there. I ended up getting like 14 hits altogether between my guns and those extra grenades. I ended up wiping out that unit, but I did take 4 casualties in return, knocking me down to 50%, and I'm a pinned unit right now. But I did take that objective, so Vin did have to pull its shit. So we're looking pretty good right now. Going into the bottom of turn 6, we'll be back in a second for Volksgrenadiers. Like I said, everybody has their entire force on the table for the most part right now, so probably just going to be a slugfest for the second half of this game, so we'll be back in a flash. We're back for bottom of turn 6. Chances were taken, mistakes were made, and pretty much nothing happened. So right now, Vin ended up pushing some infantry. What would you have? You had all your guys on the table. I think you rolled what? How many orders?
11.
11 orders. So Vin was able to get a lot of activations off this turn. So there was 2 rifle teams down here. Vin ended up pushing them up to help support the house over here. Vin used his command team up there to try to do a comms check and drop a barrage, and once again that ended up failing, so no dice on that. Down here, Vin had 2 shots with the Stug at the Churchill right here in the middle, 1 AP, 1 HE. Both of them ended up missing. This Stug is now bone dry over here.
Oh, he has 1 HE left.
He has 1 HE left. Yeah. Same thing with him, right?
No, he has 2 HE and
oh, okay, all right, so he still has some ammo. So he ended up turning, but Vin elected not to fire. He ended up holding his shot, so he just kind of positioned right now. The Stug here ended up moving and swinging around. He was previously there, moved up to get a point-blank shot down there at the Daimler. He ended up missing with that AP round, so that was pretty huge. Vin ended up then pushing up a whole bunch of infantry along the hedgerows over here to kind of get in position and maybe make a serious push at that objective right there. And that's all that happened here for the bottom of turn 6. We'll be back in a second for top of turn 7 for the Brits. We are back for the top of turn 7. Pretty decent turn. I ended up getting, it was like 11 or 12 orders. It was enough to activate everybody except for 1 person. So down here, since I'm pretty much out of ammo with most of these guys, I ended up pushing up the Churchill over here to kind of just give a little more support over there on that side. Down here with this Churchill, the rifle team that's over here, and the medic, I pushed up over here to support this objective. I fired an AP round and a HE round down here, failed to do anything, failed to hit on both of those, so we're both kind of just staring at each other with not a lot of bite left. Down here with the command team that was previously over there, I pushed them up along that little hedgerow right there to kind of get some more support along this objective here. The Vickers in the back, I put in ambush. I put the Daimler in ambush because the Stug down here got taken out by that 6-pounder. He ended up getting that the flank shot, and was enough to pop him and blow him up. With the Churchill over there, I had some shots down here at the Stug, but since it was such a long range, I opted to just spot with him. So I ended up spotting for the mortars right there. It scattered over to here. I ended up getting rolled like a 3 and a 1 for the damage rolls from the mortar. So Vin ended up rolling a 1 on his cover save for the infantry over there. So they ended up taking a casualty because of it, and then Vin failed his morale test, so they were pinned as well. So that was kind of a bummer for Vin. So those guys are pinned, and they're down to 2 guys right there. Now that's pretty much all that happened. I tried to direct fire with the 2-inch mortar over there, and I ended up not being able to hit these guys down here. And then the Bofors once again, that's tucked back over there. I needed 6s. I tried to pin this guy down here. No dice on that as well. So that's what we're looking at right now. It's mostly just a positioning game as the army's just starting to get a little bit closer in the middle of the table. So we'll be back in a flash for the bottom of turn 7 for the Volksgrenadier. So we are back for bottom of turn 7 for the Volksgrenadiers. Pretty good turn here for Vin. So Vin started getting aggressive down here. He ended up, the infantry platoons that were down in here, they ended up pushing up, and they're supported by that Stug. No damage done. I think, Vin, you did fire 1 shot, right? And you were able to pin this Churchill down here. Then the Stug over here, he was able to push up with one of his HE rounds, and he was able to pin the Churchill over here. Over here, Vin ended up pushing a bunch of these guys. Some people got pinned going across with the crossfire between the Dingo and the Vickers, but this last infantry base was able to scoot around, take a Faust shot, and was able to blow up that Daimler. Because of that, I had to pull a chit for that, as well as pull a chit because Vin ended up taking this objective in the middle of the table back. So I had to pull double chits, which wasn't a good thing. So then, what else did you have going on, Vin? I'm trying to think, man. That's pretty much the bulk of it, right?
Yeah, I'm just pushing everybody
Yeah,
forward.
yeah. And then Vin tried to do another comms check down here, but ended up failing that one. So yeah, it was a lot of movement and pushing forward on this.
There's
Vin,
another one, guys.
yeah, and then Vin decided to unpin his units at the end of his turn. He pulled it shit. He ended up getting confusion, but I ended up passing my morale, so there was nobody pinned on top of it at the end of the turn. So we'll be back in a second for top of turn 8. We're getting down to the nitty grits. House rule games end on turn 12, and then we kind of discuss see who wins if it goes that far. But like I said, we got a lot of ground left to cover, so we'll be back in a flash. So we are back for top of turn 9. In this turn, I rolled really good on my orders dice again. I was enough to get everybody to do something on the table. So for this turn, between the Bofors, the Vickers, the light mortar down there, I was able to just machine gun down and pin a bunch of the units that were in front over here. The 2 5-man teams got machine gunned, failed their morale test after taking casualties, and both of them broke. These guys got pinned over here. I was close enough to get the close assault off and capture them, so they ended up surrendering over there. The Churchill ended up just pushing up to be a little more within support over here. I put the 6-pounder back there, who is now in ambush. Over here, I pushed the medic up along the back. That's all that really happened here for shooting and movement. At the end of my turn, I opted to pull a chit and get some guys unpinned. So I ended up only rolling a 2 after I pulled the chit. So I elected to unpin this Churchill here and the 5-man team that was down here on the objective. So we'll be back in a second for the bottom of turn 9 for the Germans. Be back in a flash. So we are back for bottom of turn 9 for the Volksgrenadiers. Vin. There's a lot of fail in this one. So Vin ended up
3 turns.
Yeah, so Vin ended up pushing up the Stug. This rifle team over here opted to go for the close assault and ended up failing the morale test. So they ended up digging down into the dirt right there and ended up getting pinned. This team up here ended up moving up. We tried to shoot in these guys, but we failed to observe with them. The Stug down here, he fired up there. He was able to actually pin this unit that was over there, but then failed to pin the tank in the back. The light machine gun unit moved up, tried to fire a couple shots down to there, but failed to observe, so they weren't able to do anything. And then the Stug here fired a shot into the Churchill for HE, ended up missing on that as well. So Vin then just ended up repositioning down here with the one guy here tucked in behind the tank. And then with the observer, Vin tried to drop a bombardment back over here. Ended up scattering. Vin passed his comm test for once. Scattered over here, but then on the damage roll, Vin ended up rolling a 1. So nothing came of it right there. So that's all we're looking at right now for the bottom of turn 9. We'll be back in a second for top of turn 10 for the 52nd Lowland. We're going to have to start making a push here and defend what we got and then take what we don't. So we'll be back in a flash. So we are back for the top of turn 10, right? Is that what this is?
Yeah.
Top of turn 10. So in this turn, I ended up rolling pretty good for my orders again. It was pretty much enough to get everybody who was active on the table again to go. So to start it off, these guys I ended up firing down. I was able to pin these guys with machine gun fire, but unable to pin the small team over here with machine gun fire. So like I said, everybody just pinned over here in this area for both sides, excluding the tanks. Then I ended up pushing up the Vickers, pushing up the Bofors, pushing up the 2-inch mortar to try to just get like around this objective here. And then with my commander-in-chief down there, I ended up placing the mortar marker down here and, well, it was actually right there. I rolled a 6 for the scatter, so just with 1d6, I ended up moving 3 inches here. Vin had one guy there. With my 2 dice from the mortars, I ended up rolling a 6 and a 2. And then on the damage, I ended up killing 2 of Vin's guys, and then Vin ended up failing the morale, so they ended up breaking. So Vin had to take a morale for that. And then Vin, he had never be within contesting an objective. The way we house rule it is you have to be within line of sight to defend an objective that you've scored. He had him here, but he died. This guy was within 10, but he's on the other side of the hedgerow. He can't see the objective, so we don't count it as him actually defending it. So Vin had to take another chit for that, which actually cost Vin the game. His company ended up breaking. So we'll be back in a second for the end of game recap. 52nd Lowland ended up taking the town of, was it Goch, I think is the name of it. So we gained a little bit of position on the map. We'll be back in a second to go over the end of game recap. All right, so we're back here for the end of game recap. For this one, plans went pretty good for me right here. I'll try to make this short and sweet. So the plan was to take this corner down here because I had easier access to this side of the table for objectives. And then with my recce coming in off that corner over there, I was able to take this objective, and it was going to be easier to hold it because Vin can only really punch through from this little opening right here on the table. So that was a pretty big deal for how things ended up laying out. Like I said, we set the table beforehand. We ended up rolling up flanking attack afterwards. So like this is just kind of a random setup how things ended up working out. So my first thought was pushing up over here, kind of controlling this crossroad. If I was able to push Vin off, I would have tried to push up further into the table, but I wasn't able to really get established over here. We get my infantry in a better position along the fences and kind of getting them set up with some tank support. Vin constantly just kept these guys pinned and kept the pressure on. And as you can see, like even late game, I mean, there was just firefights going on here throughout the entire game. There's a lot of action on this side of the table. It really worked out in my favor at the end, but like I said, I'll be honest, I was a little bit worried there. I was down to 13 battle rating. With these two guys pinned and Vin still had some active infantry over there, there was some opportunities for Vin to kind of get some close assaults off and capture some of these guys. So I probably would have had to pull a chit to get these guys back in the fight just to make life a little bit more difficult for Vin. Back up over here, the plan was to get the Churchill and that 6-pounder set up with that Bofors, kind of control this little entrance right here. So if any armor tried to punch through or infantry, they were going to have to eat a bunch of lead before they really made their assault into that fence line. And it worked out pretty good. Like I said, the Bofors just kept the pressure on. I don't think kind of had to think twice about sending infantry in there unsupported. And like I said, the Churchill and that 6-pounder, they were enough to kind of make the armor think twice as well. So they did pretty good. And the mortar did a great job as well in this area of the table right over here, just pinning, taking out a couple units. I think he had like two kills, I think, right?
With the
mortars. Yeah, I think the mortar had like 2 or 3 units that they were able to either break or kill to a man with direct hits. They did pretty good this game, and they were able to pin a couple guys as well. Like I said, the battle plan went pretty good. I was able to score 4 objectives and get a victory, so it's like 200 campaign points that I can put toward my reserve pool to buy units back that we lost. Vin ended up walking away with 25 on this turn right here. Like I said, 52nd ended up taking the city of Ghost. There's no points for that. We just kind of gained a little more map control. So I don't know, Vin, you want to go over your battle plan and how things worked out?
Well, pretty much the battle plan was just rush everything forward because, I mean, I knew right from the get-go that I was kind of in an uphill battle because of this, because you had more than half the table. I had to get on that side for objectives. There was just nothing else I could have really
and that was just like I said,
done.
It was just random mission.
Yeah.
The way the mission ended up setting up on this one, it was pretty big.
It was pretty brutal. And then over here, I just didn't get anybody over there in the amount of time that I needed them because everything that was happening over here. Like I wasn't able to run troops across the street to get to this side. The tanks, it was a gamble doing that just because of pretty much everything that was on that side. Like having this blocked off made things difficult, but
I think we played. I don't think our tanks performed poorly. I think we played them pretty poorly. I think it's kind of really getting used to pushing up aggressively with the armor, because I think most of the games that we played recently, we've kind of sat back and been plugging away at each other, and the tanks have been doing an okay job, but with the damage falling off at distance, the penetration shots just aren't happening. Most of the stuff is bouncing, so it's turned into pinning tanks. The only reason this one got taken out because, like I said, you made that aggressive push that turn, which almost paid off. But like I said, you just gave up your flank shot, and that 6-pounder back there ended up hitting it. But for the most part, I mean, there's 6 tanks that were in the game, and 5 ended up rolling out of it. So I mean, like,
yeah, that's true.
The tanks were threatening, but I don't think they really performed all that well as far as taking out armor in those shootouts. It was pretty underwhelming for that kind of stuff.
And another thing that completely killed me, I don't think out of all 10 of those turns I ever even had a chance to use the artillery.
Yeah, the 105. Well, the rough thing was, I mean, that first turn you ended up taking 3 guys dead off of that right off the bat.
And then I never...
And then comms checks, and then scatter rolls. Yeah, things did not go well for the support fire over there. And that land mattress was pretty huge. That did a pretty good job as well. So like I said, I don't know. I thought it was a pretty fun game. I know at the end of it, the dice gods weren't kind of in those last like 2 or 3 turns, and some of the pitiful parts. Like early mid game though, Vin had some
pretty big moments.
Pretty good dice, and yeah, there's some pretty good opportunities to push up and make some moves. You know, it was a pretty balanced game there until the end. And like I said, then some dice just started to sway my way a little bit more. Vin took some risks that paid off initially, but then on the receiving end, like I said, what happened here with that infantry push, it was just rough, man. That was a rough turn to lose. What was it, like 3 or 4 bases, I think, in one turn?
Yeah, that was pretty much all of my. Well, no, half of my Panzer Shreks, I think.
Yeah, you had I think 2 or 3 Panzer Shreks that were lost there. Yeah, so it was pretty tough. Like I said, overall it was a good game. Like I said, we're gonna keep doing this campaign for the next couple of weeks until we ended up wrapping it up. And there's no technical end game. We're just gonna try to play it until we get to cross the Rhine. Like I said, that's all explained in the earlier video that went up on Monday. So, like I said, subscribe, all that jazz. You guys got any comments or any feedback, just throw it down in the comments. If you guys want to know how we're doing our missions and how we're doing our scoring and some of the other stuff, just shoot me an email at theacceptablecasualties@gmail.com, and I can send you guys over the form on how we're doing it. It's pretty simple stuff, but it might be easier for you guys to follow along too if you want the email, and I can send you guys the paperwork. So, yeah, I'll catch you guys later. See you guys next Wednesday. Thanks for watching.